It's always nice to be the top lefty in an event. I have done that a few times this year.
Hey guys, Johnny Disc Golf here, just south of Cincinnati at the Idlewild Open with coverage presented by Prodigy. I am standing next to a man who is touring full time this year for the first time, Mr. Nathan Queen. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, man. Enjoying the tour.
Good, good. So my first question off the top, me and you, we share hair. What's the play in the scorching heat with the long hair?
All right, I normally go with the bun towards the back a little bit, not quite on the top, and I got the headbands I like to use. Just a hat gets a little too hot.
Okay. So hair up, noted. I haven't been very successful with that in the past. Tell the people where you're from, though. A lot of people have seen your name popping up. I'm thinking most recently out at Brett Hambrick. Where are you from, and what should we expect about your game?
So I'm from North Carolina. I grew up around in Kernersville, around Winston-Salem. Disc golf wise, New Bern, North Carolina, right on the coast, so I got a little wind golf in, but it was still trees and good mix of shots. So I'm used to wooded golf, so it's nice to be out here at Idlewild. I've been loving it since I've been here. I got 3 practice rounds in and I feel comfortable with it.
Great. One thing that I noticed to start the season is that you were actually on the PDJ's list of, I think it was like 6 to watch or like 9 to watch as a rookie on tour. How's it been, and did you feel maybe any added pressure as somebody that people were looking at?
No, I never really felt much added pressure. It was cool to get contacted by Steve to do that article for him. I was excited about that. And I've enjoyed it throughout the year. I'm playing pretty well. I've cashed all of them except for one event.
Okay.
And I'd like to be doing a little better, of course, but I think that's just the competitive nature in everybody. So
Sure.
I'll still be pushing.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is cool and notable, speaking as Central Coaster, we've got Brian Geis, part of our crew, who's left-handed as well. How do you feel like being a lefty on tour? Do you think that's a disadvantage, advantage, neutral?
I'm pretty neutral on it. I try not to think about it too much. There are shots where I'm still working on my forehand, so it would be nice to have a forehand for the natural left fade. But I learned in Anheuser first off, just watching everybody throw. So I think that's why I do well in the woods. I can maneuver a disc to hyzer, stand up to straight, and things like that. So I try not to think about the lefty-righty too much.
Sure, that makes sense. Do you feel any pressure or any added goal to be the best lefty in the world? I'm thinking Zach Melton, Chris Clemens, all those guys.
I've thought about it a little bit. I am always trying to figure out where they finish.
Good.
It's always nice to be the top lefty in an event. I have done that a few times this year.
Okay, that's always a goal, right? There's cash, there's winning, and then there's just being the top lefty.
Yeah.
So you said you've been liking it out here at Idlewild, though. How many rounds have you got in, and do you feel like you could give it a good run for this one?
Yeah, I played 2 rounds out here on Tuesday, and then played around out here yesterday. Kind of looked at it a little bit this morning. And yeah, I feel like I could do well. As long as I've got my lines down, I can hit. If I hit the fairways, then I'm going to have a chance at birdie. That's all it really is, and I feel comfortable that I should be able to hit the majority of the fairways and just play smart when I don't. And I think I could give it a run.
Yeah, are there any holes out here that's really catching your eye, or that you're maybe looking forward to playing this weekend?
Well, I can't think of one right off. I'm enjoying the whole course. I think hole 7 is probably one that's super fun to play, but I've struggled with kind of my placement off of the tee on where to land it at. So I think 7's the one that I'm going to feel really good when I get a birdie during the tournament.
I love hole 7. It really, to me, feels like the intro to Idlewild. You play those first 6 holes. It's, in the open for the most part. You get to hole 7, and that nastiness absolutely starts. So I know you didn't play last year. You didn't play a ton of Pro Tour events. There are some hole changes this year. I'm thinking hole 4 got a little bit shorter, a little bit more towards the water. Hole 11, the little ace run through the woods, they brought that back a little bit. How do you feel about those changes? Do you think it helped the holes?
Hole 2 got changed also, I believe.
Yes. You're right. The basket got pushed up maybe 100 feet up that hill.
Hole 2, I think I didn't, like you said, I didn't really play it last year, but I did watch a lot of the video coverage, so I kind of remember where everything was at. And hole 2 I like because it is a little bit further shot. You have to push those trees that the basket's behind, and you could still roll into the water with some danger. Hole 4, I'm not real sure about because I'm not, it seems reachable. I can reach it over with a stand-up to flat over the water. And then 11, it definitely makes it harder. It's still a short hole, but it does make it I did play the short tee, and it didn't seem like there was a gap to hit. So it does make it a gap to hit, it seems like, on that shorty.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the scores differentiate from last year to this year. One thing I'd like to talk about, and this I think is unique in your situation, is you are traveling with a puppy. Yeah. How's that been on tour, and what's the info on the puppy? What's the name?
All right, I've got little Sadie with me. Sadie Lady is what the hashtag's been on Instagram. But she travels real well. I've had her since she was 8 weeks old, and she'll be 7 in November. And she's always gone out to play disc golf with me and traveling in the car. Okay. So it's not too much different for her in the RV. She's used to a disc golf life. But she's doing well, and it's nice to have her with me. It's it can be a little stressful sometimes in the summer when it's getting hot, but it's always been working out for me where she's still super happy.
Yeah. Probably easy to please co-pilot on these long drives too.
She whenever on these bumpy roads here in Kentucky, she doesn't like that real much. I go hit some potholes and she's staring at me trying to figure out what I'm doing.
So I mentioned this is your first year on tour. Last year you did play a few of the bigger ones though, right? What big events did you play last year?
Last year, I went up to play a USDGC qualifier in Pittsburgh. It was just an A tier, I say just an A tier. It was an A tier at Moraine State Park, and then after that, I played USDGC and Worlds up in Vermont, and I can't wait to get back to Vermont this year. That'll be the first place that I've played again. Everywhere I'm playing this year is all new since February, since I started in Vegas. So once we get to Vermont, it'll feel good to try to get some redemption there.
Absolutely. So that's got to be a unique experience for you. I mean, not to say you're playing all these courses blind, but that's a significant advantage that the field, I think, has against someone who hasn't played any of these courses before. Have you been finding that to be the case, or is it, you feel just as comfortable maybe as you think you would?
At the beginning of the year, starting off in Vegas was pretty tough because I had 3 days to learn 3 courses. So in Vegas, it absolutely felt like a disadvantage that I hadn't had a chance to prepare. Since then, I've been getting better about preparing. Whenever I started playing in North Carolina, I hadn't played any tournaments at all. So every tournament I played the first year, then I went out and played 30 was also pretty new. Gotcha. So I had experience in playing courses in that case with less play time on the course because I was still working then. So it's worked well where I've been able to get there in advance and get a few rounds in, and I don't feel like it's too much of a disadvantage. Okay. But I guess we'll see next year.
Exactly. Or maybe out in Vermont at GMC. Right. You mentioned that you were working last year. If you don't mind me saying, what were you doing, and what made you make the decision to tour full time?
Well, I've been in flooring for probably about 10 years before I don't have a job this year, and I've just been touring full time. But I was sitting at a desk just looking at diagrams and making sure materials and stuff like that, pretty boring stuff that I didn't enjoy. So it was the fact that I was able to save up some money while I was there and leave wasn't that hard to leave because I didn't enjoy doing it and I was ready to do this. So it was the saving some money up, I was able to get out and test it out this year.
Great. And do we think we're going to be seeing you again next year?
Yeah, I should be around next year. I haven't figured out exactly all my stops, but I plan to hit a good majority of them again.
Okay, that's all we can ask for.
Yeah.
I think the touring life can get grating, really quickly, especially if you don't necessarily have a place to call home, which you do. You have that bigger RV that you're driving around this year. You're driving it solo though right now, correct?
Yeah, I'm in it solo right now. So I do have plans next year. That's why I'm not sure exactly what the tour will be. Is I should have somebody with me next year just to help expenses along the year. So we've got to talk and figure out what the stops are going to be before I can say what all I don't know if I'll make it out west twice is the main thing.
Okay. So I might suggest making the San Francisco Open leg of that West Coast tour if you're only going to one.
See, that's where the struggle's coming in with the 30-foot RV and going to San Francisco. It's a hard. I really want to go back to Oregon, and I enjoyed playing the course in San Francisco, but it's a hard trip to make in that RV. So it'd be some planning to not have the RV if I do make it back to California again.
Okay, well, hey, planning starts now. as a host of San Francisco, we've loved to have you back, and everyone back, to be fair. But I understand that it is a hassle. I do want to get you out here, though. It's getting a little warm out here, and we got Sadie inside. So I want to give you an opportunity to say anything you want, any words of encouragement, anything like that, for fans at home or anybody pulling for Mr. Nathan Queen.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody back in North Carolina that's been giving me support throughout the year. Everybody that I've met this year that's supported me throughout the tour. And a big shout out to Idlewild Discs. And I'll see you guys out there.
Beautiful. Hey, thank you so much for your time, Nathan. Seriously, I really appreciate it, and glad to have you on the program. That's all I have for this interview, guys. If you'd like coverage of all things disc golf, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for checking out that interview. I'd like to give a special shout out to Prodigy Disc and CC. You know who you are, buddy. And I'd like to give a shout out to all of you. The people make it possible for me to do this and the thing that I love. So thank you so much. And if you'd like to get involved, check out patreon.com/JohnnyDiscGolf. Thanks.